Scientists of various fields, not only environmentalists, but also, for example, biologists, hydrologists, and other interested in research in making sure that this territory is not destroyed once again by ill-considered decisions. It will take from 6 to 7 years after the deoccupation to restore, rebuild, or build a new dam and the hydroelectric power station at this site. The local population is facing numerous big problems because the region economically relied on the waters of the Kakhovka reservoir.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Euro-Atlantic Course, and I'm your host, Myroslava Yaremki. On June 6, 2023, the Russians committed the biggest ecocide against the Ukrainian people. They blew up the Kakhovka HPP dam, releasing millions of tons of water and destroying everything in its path. Even as the first anniversary of the explosion of the Kakhovka HPP approached, Ukraine cannot fully access the colossal damage to nature or determine how many people have died because of it. In today's episode, we will discuss the consequences of the Kakhovka HPP explosion, the current state of the reservoir territory, and the forecast for the restoration of the Kakhovka HPP. If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. In the 1950s, the construction of the Kakhovka reservoir and the HPP was intended to implement Stalin's plan, the Great Plan for the Transformation of Nature. The Soviet authorities aimed to turn the arid steppes of southern Ukraine into fertile lands. Although the Kakhovka HPP was one of the least powerful hydroelectric plants, and one may get the impression of its insignificance, hydroelectric plants are essential for balancing capabilities within the energy system. They allow production to be adjusted to meet demand, which changes every minute. That is why it is crucial to make balanced and effective decisions regarding the restoration of the HPP. Anatoliy Pavelko, the leading legal advisor and ecologist of the international charity organization Ecology-Law-Human, will discuss the Kakhovka Platform initiative that brings together historians, farmers, engineers, bankers, and local government officials to participate in discussions about the future development of the region.
Ukrainians do have a lot of experience. When Russian troops began the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Ukrainians also self-organized. They self-organized into armed units, volunteer units, and similar things. We and our colleagues from our environmental organizations came up with the idea to gather everyone under one roof and discuss what to do next about this disaster and what our future would be. From the very beginning, we decided that it wouldn't be just a narrow discussion platform for environmentalists. Environmentalists have their vision, while a large number of different players have a different vision of how the region and the situation around this disaster should develop. And therefore, we tried to attract the widest possible range of people to this platform. And I can say that we have largely succeeded. Apart from environmentalists, we managed to attract, for example, historians who are interested in ensuring that this territory is somehow explored and the historical heritage is not lost or buried somewhere again. We managed to bring together representatives of the local population, representatives of farmers who farm in this area. We managed to attract hydropower engineers, hydrological engineers, representatives of the banking sector, industry, and local authorities, and also scientists of various fields, not only environmentalists, but also, for example, biologists, hydrologists, and other interested in research in making sure that this territory is not destroyed once again by ill-considered decisions. And we managed to bring them all together at this platform, which we called Kakhovka platform. Our work was carried out in the form of meetings, remote meetings, where we discussed some key issues such as water supply for agriculture, uh, navigation possibilities, the possibility of rebuilding a hydroelectric hub in a particular format, and these things, all things like that. Actually, all participants were invited to such discussions. To date, we have already held 5 such comprehensive meetings of the participants where we could A. share experience and B. determine certain areas in which we can offer solutions in the future. Our platform is open to all interested parties today. We are interested in cooperation with the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, with Ukrhydroenergo, with various organizations that operate in this area. And I want to emphasize that we should avoid repeating the mistakes of the past. And there were such mistakes. Mistakes were related to both the creation of the Kakhovka reservoir and its intended purpose. There were also errors in the way it functioned. It's not a secret. Many scientific articles describe this large number of problems that existed even before the Kakhovka disaster. Further actions of the Russian occupiers led to this disaster. We'd like all future decisions to be made with all interests in mind, so that the decisions are balanced and effective.
It will only be feasible to consider restoring the Kakhovka HPP after the full deoccupation of the Kherson region and the south of Ukraine. Thus, it is crucial for Ukraine to have full control over this territory to ensure security. With modern technologies and appropriate financing, it is possible to construct a much more powerful hydroelectric power station than the Kakhovka HPP. But the most significant issue is that it was the water supply source, essential for industrial and agricultural consumers, as well as for drinking water purposes. Moreover, the Kakhovka HPP reservoir was directly linked to the water supply for cooling the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Dmytro Skrylnikov from the Bureau of Environmental Investigations will talk more about long-term perspectives of the HPP restoration.
It will take from 6 to 7 years after the deoccupation to restore, rebuild, or build a new dam and a hydroelectric power station at this site. So what quick decisions can we talk about now if we have enough time to make a balanced, reasonable, and understandable decision? What makes me happy about today's speeches of certain officials is that they have already started talking about these scenarios and possibilities, despite the fact that there are indeed certain legal mechanisms in Ukraine that allow us to do this already and consider various alternatives. In particular, just over the last 6 months, we have been discussing and planning to approve river basin management plans in the near future. And we must understand how we will manage the basin where we do not model the situation that will result from the destruction of the Kakhovka HPP, and how we are going to restore it after the destruction, and how we will manage this territory in the next decades. And so when we talk about a far, long-term perspective, we must analyze certain alternative development options. In this situation, time is playing against us, because if we rebuild the hydroelectric power plant, even we started to rebuild it now, it would take us 5-10 years to rebuild this power plant. And what will happen in this region in these 5-10 years? We can see that a 2 or 3 year old forest has already grown at the very bottom of the Kakhovka reservoir. More precisely, a forest has grown that will not cover the bottom with 1-year-old plants, but a forest that will be a completely new formed ecosystem in 10 years. And we can see that main water pipelines, new artesian wells, new water supply are already being built down there. What about all this new infrastructure that will be there in 10 years? Therefore, our idea when joining the Kakhovka platform was not to advocate the refusal to rebuild or some project not to rebuild the Kakhovka power plant or rebuild it in a certain way. And for us as lawyers, this issue is very important for correct decision making, balanced decision making, and decision making with due regard for possible development alternatives, i.e., alternative scenarios. And in my opinion, the government's first decision should be to make a decision on planning, on analyzing such possible scenarios for the development of the region, because when we talk about critical infrastructure and the need to urgently provide water, water is one thing, but when we talk about the development of the region, which after reconstruction will be affected by these decisions for decades, we must weigh up all the consequences of such decisions.
Damage from the explosion of the Kakhovka HPP can be divided into three categories: water draining from the reservoir, flooding of territories, and desalination of the Black Sea. All of this constitutes ecocide. The entire flooded area, approximately 120,000 hectares, was completely washed away. On the first islands after the Kakhovka Dam itself, the water level rose by 12 meters. Subsequently, the water flow swept away everything in its path. Everyone recalls the photos and videos on social networks showing houses, cars, and household appliances being washed away on the beaches of the Odessa region. Hundreds of thousands of cattle and predatory animals, nesting birds, amphibians, and reptiles perished. Even fish, crayfish, and freshwater mollusks from the Dmytro river died because they were exposed to the salty seawater. Vitaliy Horvat, head of the land department of the Myliv community, will share with us the consequences of this ecocide in the region today.
Our community is agricultural. Agriculture is the main type of employment. This is an agricultural region, and that's why we're facing many challenges and all the consequences of the Kakhovka disaster. Because the only Dnieper River remains for now, the local population is facing numerous big problems because the region economically relied on the waters of the Kakhovka reservoir. And there have been many new projects recently. Gardens and vineyards have been planted. The rural population worked and lived off their homestead plots. 3 villages of the community had water intake facilities that provided them both with potable water and water for technical needs. It so happened that today it is very, very hard for us without this water. Last year, after blowing of the Kakhovka power plant, there was a government program, Water for the Kherson region, which budgeted the funds. In turn, we, the community, carried out the work, selected 10 land plots and demined them for drilling wells. But due to the security situation, these works were not completed. Today, the situation with drinking water is almost critical. I will explain why exactly. There is a village, Kluchany. It does not belong to our community. In order to fill the water intake system, the entire water supply system, to supply water to people, it is necessary to start almost 10 wells at once, because they are shallow. All these systems are powered by diesel generators, since the villages of the community have been without electricity for almost 3 years. That is, the coastal villages, which are currently beyond the zone of direct hostilities, are completely without electricity. And therefore, to fill the water main, it is necessary to start 10 diesel generators. They are powerful, expensive to maintain. Thanks to regional military administration, we have fuel for these generators. Thanks to international organizations, we're helped in this regard, but this almost does not solve the problem, since the water is leaving. The artesian water well level has dropped by 70%. I attribute this directly to the fact that there is currently no water in the upstream facility of the Kakhovka reservoir. Here is the current situation, the environmental situation.
You've been watching a special project by Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!